I never thought I'd be the teacher who'd trade my principles for a forbidden dance with a student who saw too much. My name's Olivia, and this is my confession, raw and unfiltered, a story of betrayal so sharp it sliced through my marriage and my ethics, leaving me in ashes. If you're watching, you're already hooked, caught in a truth that feels like fire until it's a chain around your soul. This isn't about love or redemption. It's about infidelity, the kind that blinds you and dares you to leap. Stay with me because this one's going to unravel you. It's a tale of secrets, lust, and a sin I couldn't bury. It was a crisp October evening in Portland, Oregon, the air thick with cedar and the hum of campus life. I was 35, an English professor at a small liberal arts college, married to Paul, 38, a distant lawyer consumed by work. My colleague, Marcus, 40, a history professor with a sharp wit and warm brown eyes, had become my escape. Our late-night grading sessions turned into stolen moments, and one night in the faculty lounge we crossed a line. That evening I thought we were alone. The campus quiet, the lounge lit by a single lamp. Marcus's hands were on me, his tie loose, his lips fierce. I wore a pencil skirt, my blouse unbuttoned, my heart pounding. Then I saw him, Jasper, 22, a quiet senior in my poetry class, his dark eyes wide through the lounge window. He was watching his camera phone, glinting, capturing our sin. I froze, Marcus's hands still on my waist, but Jasper didn't move, his gaze locked on mine, a spark that hit like a storm. The lounge was dim, the cedar air heavy with whiskey and guilt. Marcus pulled away unaware, but Jasper's eyes held me, a silent accusation laced with something darker, desire. I should have confronted him, reported him, but his intensity, his youth, stirred something I couldn't name. His lips curled into a faint smirk, and he slipped into the shadows, leaving me trembling. My wedding ring burned, a reminder of Paul, but the thrill of being seen was louder, a whisper I couldn't silence. The next day, Jasper cornered me after class, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his gaze piercing. "I saw you," he said, his voice low, his camera in hand. I wore a sweater, my hair pinned up, trying to reclaim authority, but his eyes stripped it away. "Delete it," I demanded, my voice shaking, but he stepped closer, his hand grazing my arm, a touch that set my nerves alight. "I don't want to," he said, his tone daring, his breath warm. My heart pounded, a traitor, as I nodded, my silence a confession. We slipped to a storage room behind the lecture hall, the air thick with dust and the campus silent. Jasper's hand slid to my waist, his fingers warm through the sweater, a spark that burned through my vows. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his lips close, his breath hot with coffee and rebellion. I didn't. My hands found his chest, the cotton soft, his pulse strong. The lecture hall hummed the night alive, and I was already lost. His kiss was a collision, fierce and reckless, tasting of coffee and sin. My hands slid up his neck, pulling him closer, the storage room shelves cool behind me. The night pulsed, the air heavy, as his lips trailed to my throat, his hands bold, each touch a pulse of pleasure and betrayal. I was drowning, and Jasper was the tide pulling me into a sea of want. Paul's trust. Marcus's touch faded, leaving only him, his heat, my hunger. His kiss was a wildfire burning through my loyalty to Paul and my ethics. Jasper's hands were bold, tugging at my sweater, his fingers grazing my skin through the fabric. The storage room was a haze, the overhead light casting shadows that danced like secrets. My hands roamed his chest, the cotton slipping, revealing skin that burned under my touch. The cedar air matched my racing heart, the air thick with coffee and desire. His lips were everywhere, my jaw, my collarbone, each kiss a claim, each touch a vow shattered. I pulled him deeper into the room, the door half closed, shielding us from the world. My sweater was gone, discarded in the haze, revealing lace that made his breath catch. My hands slid lower, tracing his belt, his gasps sharp in the quiet space. The guilt was there, cold and sharp, but my longing fueled every touch, every move. His hands were on my thighs, sliding under the lace, his fingers leaving trails of fire. The storage room was our world, the campus a distant hum. I pressed him against a shelf, my body molding to his, the lace a tease I couldn't control. His lips found mine again, hungry, demanding tasting of coffee and want. My hands slid under his shirt, his skin warm and taut, his breath hitching as my fingers explored. The light flickered, painting us in amber and shadow, turning our sin into something almost beautiful. But it wasn't. It was raw, reckless, a collision of need and betrayal. "Olivia," he murmured my name, a spell pulling me deeper. My fingers tangled in his hair, my body arching into his, a demand he couldn't resist. The night was suffocating, the campus silent as my hands gripped his shoulders, his jeans a barrier I wanted to tear away. The pleasure was building a storm of its own, raw and relentless, edged with the guilt of betraying Paul in my profession. When it happened, it was a collision, a wave crashing over us. His groans were sharp, muffled by the shelves, my hands holding him tight, our bodies moving as one. The pleasure was fierce, overwhelming, a betrayal that felt like freedom. The shelves creaked, the night heavy with our heat, my sin unfolding. The campus stood still, indifferent, as I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. It was everything, every ache, every want, every code I'd buried. Afterward, we stayed there, tangled, breathless, the air heavy with the scent of dust and us. Jasper's hair fell across my shoulder, his fingers tracing my hip, his eyes half closed with satisfaction. The guilt crashed in a deluge, but his warmth held it at bay, a lie I wanted to believe. "You're mine now," he said, his voice rough, unconvincing. I smiled, broken and bitter, my lips brushing his ear. "No one's," I said, but I wasn't sure. The Portland autumn lingered, and so did the weight of my betrayal. I left the storage room, my sweater back on Jasper's scent coffee and sin clinging to me. Paul was at home, oblivious, his trust a knife in my chest. I tried to be the wife he deserved, cooking dinner, smiling through his stories. But Jasper's touch haunted me, his face in every shadow, every dream. The guilt was a beast clawing at me, but his fire burned brighter, a flame I couldn't douse. Our stolen moments continued, fleeting encounters in empty classrooms. The library, stacks, his apartment, each a spark, each fading fast, but leaving me craving more. One night I saw him at a campus cafe, his eyes catching mine. Paul was at a deposition, Marcus avoiding me after our fling ended. Jasper approached, his voice low. "You're not done," he said, his hand grazing my arm, reigniting the spark. I told myself to stop, to protect Paul, but my body betrayed me. He texted later, midnight, "My place." I went, the night thick with rain, his silhouette waiting in the dark. His apartment was raw, the air heavy with ink and desire. His hoodie discarded, his skin glowing in the lamplight. His kiss was fiercer now, desperate hands tearing at my blouse. My hands roamed his body, greedy, memorizing every muscle, every shudder. The rain's hum hid our sin, but the guilt was sharper, a blade I couldn't outrun. His lips found my throat, his hand sliding under my lace, his touch a brand I'd never erase. Paul grew suspicious. "You're distant, Liv," he said, his eyes searching mine over breakfast. I froze, his trust a contrast to my betrayal. "Just grading stress." I lied, my voice tight, my mind flashing to Jasper's apartment, his hands on my skin. His frown deepened, and I feared he saw the truth. "I love you," he said, and the words were a weight crushing me. Then it happened. Paul caught us, his car pulling up as I left Jasper's apartment. My blouse rumpled Jasper's silhouette in the doorway. "Olivia!" he shouted, his face crumpling, his pain a mirror of my guilt. I froze, my sin unraveling, his trust shattered. With him, he whispered, tears in his eyes, and I couldn't answer. I told Jasper it was over. He stood in his apartment, his eyes blazing, his hoodie open. "You'll miss this," he said, his voice a challenge. He left a notebook behind, his initials scratched into it, tucked into my bag. I should have thrown it away, but I kept it a secret that scorched. The Portland rain lingered, and so did my shame, a fire I couldn't quench. Paul confronted me. "How long?" he asked, holding the notebook, his voice trembling. I froze, my sin unraveling, his trust a mirror of my guilt. I confessed not all, but enough, admitting to Marcus, then Jasper, my weakness, my betrayal. He left, his face broken, our marriage over. I was alone, the notebook in my hand, Jasper's scent, a ghost I'd never escape. This is my story, a warning to anyone who thinks they can chase fire and not get burned. If you've watched this far, you know that betrayal, that ache for what you shouldn't take. So hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, call me a fool, a sinner, or just a teacher who fell. Like the video or don't, but share it with someone who's felt infidelity's sting. Check out my other stories, they're just as raw, just as real. Ever fallen for a forbidden touch? Spill your secrets below. I'm listening, and I've been there.